Selected parts from the book One Life is Not Enough, written by Shri K. Natur Singh. Part 40. Natwar, before you hear it from someone else, let me tell you that Rajiv is getting married. Indira Gandhi said to me one day in late 1967. Who is the lucky girl? I inquired. She is an Italian. They met at Cambridge. When is the marriage? In February, Mrs. Gandhi announced. This was news indeed. Rajiv was the most eligible bachelor in the country. Edwige Antonio Albina Maino is 2 years junior to him. The wedding took place on 25th February 1968. The day after, Mrs. Gandhi held a reception for Rajiv and Sonia in Hyderabad house. All eyes were on the bride. I remember how nervous she was. From Turin to New Delhi was quite a leap. The daughter of a staunchy Roman Catholic family, she found herself in a totally alien environment. The cultural shock would have been unnerving. She had no friends in India, no knowledge and understanding of Indian languages, culture, customs, mores, heritage, history, and religion. Sonia's life can be divided into 4 phases. The first phase was an era of matrimonial bliss, love, enjoyment, and apprenticeship under a world famous mother in law. Sonia walked demurely in the light of fortune. That ended on 31st October 1984, the day Indira Gandhi was assassinated. The second phase lasted a short 7 years. The Congress Working Committee passed a resolution electing Rajiv to succeed his mother. Sonia fought like a tigress to prevent him from becoming Prime Minister. She feared that he too would be killed. But Rajiv had a duty to perform. Personal considerations were irrelevant. Sonia's carefree days had ended. She became the First Lady, accompanying her husband on his official visits the world over. No longer could Rajiv and Sonia see life from afar. They were the center of the turbulent drama of politics. Sonia at the time appeared aloof but was deeply involved. In the earlier days, she was ill at ease with strangers and said little. One seldom witnessed her having an animated conversation with any head of state. This phase was too good to last. Implacable fate felled Rajiv Gandhi on 21st May 1991. Phase 3 lasted from 1991 to 1998. Sonia lived in seclusion, keeping the memory of Rajiv alive. Attempts to persuade her to join politics were rejected. The most public appeal to her was at an AICC meeting in Talkatora Gardens. When Sonia entered, everyone stood up and a deafening chant began, imploring her to sit on the dais. The clapping did not die down for 10 minutes. One member of the working committee walked over to request her to step on the dais. She, in no uncertain terms, told him that she would leave if the demonstration was not stopped. During that time, Sonia established the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation and published two handsome volumes on Rajiv, which kept her busy for the better part of 3 years. She also succeeded Rajiv as chairperson of the Nehru Memorial Fund and the Indira Gandhi Memorial Trust and organized 6 international conferences in Delhi to which we invited eminent scholars, artists, and politicians. I suggested that Sonia hold similar conferences in different parts of the country. In each city, the response of the media, the intelligentsia, and the universities was heartwarming. The more she kept away from the media, the more it pursued her. At the conferences, she only read her speech and let me run the events. She had made P.V. Narasimha Rao Prime Minister, but she was not very fond of him. In December 1994, when my relations with him had been repaired, he asked me to see him at his house, 5 Racecourse Road. He seemed uncharacteristically agitated and restless. He said, I can take on Sonia Gandhi, but I do not want to do so. Some of her advisers have been filling her ears against me. I don't take them seriously. Sonia's case is different. Her attitude towards me is affecting my health. If she wants me to go, she only has to say so. I have done my best to meet all her desires and requirements promptly. You worked closely with her and must know and should know why she is so hostile to me. As Vice Chairman of the Indira Gandhi Memorial Trust and Secretary of the Nehru Memorial Fund, my meetings with Sonia Gandhi were mostly confined to the activities of the two institutions. I seldom discussed politics with her and told him so. One thing I did know was that she was upset that the trial of Rajiv Gandhi's assassination was moving at a very slow pace. P.V.'s reply was that he had sent P. Chidambaram to her with the necessary papers. He had also sent Home Minister S.B. Chavan to brief her on the latest position of the case. Finally, he said that he himself had gone with the necessary files and explained to Mrs. Gandhi the legal difficulties in hastening the trial. According to him, she had listened and said nothing. He continued his tale of woe. You know, I go out of my way to be polite to her. We do whatever she wishes. She never telephones me. One day, after the meeting of the Nehru Fund trustees, I suggested to her that I would have a RAX phone installed at number 10 so that she could call me whenever she wished to. She agreed. An hour later, she sent a message that she did not want the RAX. It was like a slap on my face. I suggested that he contact Muhammad Yunus, who was constantly in touch with Sonia. Yunus had been an intimate friend of the Nehru family for decades. He was Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan's nephew. He was the only member of his Pathan family who did not migrate to Pakistan. He was forthright, faithful, and accelerating company. A few days later, PV arrived at Yunus' house after 9 pm without any fanfare or police escort. It was a clandestine rendezvous at which I was also present. That PV agreed to such a meeting was in itself a clear indication of how keen he was for a patch up with Sonia. But it did not happen. It is possible that Yunus' intervention irked Sonia. I vividly remember the Trivandrum conference in September 1995. The night before her arrival, the head of security informed me that the Babbar Khalsa group would make an attempt on her life. I, in turn, informed A.K. Antony, the Chief Minister of Kerala. Ever since I have known to him, I have called him Saint Anthony. He is a low key, unassuming, courteously candid, soft spoken person. Like me, he was most disturbed. He came to my hotel and asked me what we should do. I suggested calling Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao. We proceeded to Antony's house. He had no police escort, no personal security officer. At the gate of his house, I saw no sentry or guard. I asked him where his private secretary was. The answer astounded me. It is past 6 pm and my staff has left. Do you have the Prime Minister's telephone number? I inquired next. He did not. I succeeded in getting through to the Prime Minister who had already heard the alarming news. Natwar, you tell her from me that for security reasons she must not travel to Trivandrum, he said. Why don't you tell her, sir? I asked. It is better for you to convey my message, was his reply. I knew PV well, but this I thought was a bit much even for him. Here was an extremely dangerous threat to Sonia from terrorists, and he was not willing to speak to her. I called her. The answer was, I am arriving Trivandrum by the morning flight. If I do not do so, I shall never be able to steer out of 10 Janpath. Sonia was taking a serious risk. Antony and I looked at each other. There was nothing further to do. Meanwhile, P.V. Narasimha Rao acted with alacrity. Overnight, commandos were flown into Trivandrum. Raj Bhavan, where Sonia was staying, became a mini fortress. The conference venue received the same security treatment. The fourth phase of Sonia's life began on 14th March 1998 when she formally took over as Congress President at a specially called meeting of the AICC at Siri Fort, New Delhi. She was neither a communicator nor an orator, both indispensable skills for any frontline politician. Preparing her maiden speech took several agonizing hours. She arrived at Siri Fort accompanied by Priyanka, then sent for me and asked me to sit next to her. Jairam Ramesh too was sent for to fine tune the speech. But Sonia successfully crossed the first hurdle in spite of her nervousness. I remember how each of Sonia's speeches was an exercise that would take 6 to 8 hours. Sometimes these agonizing speech sessions lasted till midnight. There were occasions when she and I would be alone working on them. She would read the speech aloud. I would time it. It would then be translated into Hindi. The Hindi version would then be translated into English and printed out in bold letters. This situation did not last long. Her English is near perfect. Hindi is the problem. She cannot speak the language without a written script in front of her. To my suggestion to her that she learn by heart a chaupai or two of Tulsi Das or Kabir's dohas and use them in her speeches, she threw her hands up. I go blank even with a written text. You want me to say something extempore? Forget it. Many senior congressmen sent suggestions and drafts for her speeches. Seldom were these used. Jairam Ramesh became a regular presence at the marathon speech sessions. Being a wizard with the computer, he was useful. He is good company. His brain is rather sharp, but his wit occasionally got him into trouble. At times, I was the target of his wit. Sonia used to enjoy my discomfiture. By now, I was meeting her frequently. I reminded her that her family had an international constituency which had been neglected since Rajiv's death. She must revive it. She asked how I would achieve this. I told her that with the assistance of my erstwhile colleagues in the Ministry of External Affairs, I would ensure that visiting foreign ministers and prime ministers called on her. After all, as head of Congress party, she was the de facto leader of opposition. I sounded out my friend Brajesh Mishra on this. He was not dismissive but made no commitment. After some months, the Ministry of External Affairs began to include a call on the Congress President in the program of visiting ministers and prime ministers. To begin with, Sonia did not look forward to these meetings. What do I say to them? She would ask. My advice was listen. You will gather much information. I used to be present at most of the meetings between 1999 and 2005, arriving at 10 Janpat a few minutes before the visiting dignitary. Initially, she would turn towards me with an embarrassing regularity. This did not go unnoticed. I asked her to try not to do so. As time went by, the media's interest in Sonia's exchanges with these visitors increased. On 14 November 1998, I had bypass surgery at the Escorts Heart Institute. Throughout my stay in hospital, she telephoned Dr. Trehan, my heart surgeon, inquiring about my medical condition. She visited the hospital twice. Her genuine concern meant much to my wife and me. She used to worry a lot about the security of her grandchildren as well as Priyanka's safety. I promised to speak to Brajesh Mishra and did sound him out later. He promised to do the needful discreetly as Sonia had wished. The political discussions between Sonia and I were exclusive, serious, and to the point. She was becoming less diffident in public, but still had a long way to go. In a male dominated society, she could never relax. Even in the working committee meetings, she was taught and spoke very little. Jairam Ramesh once invited her wrath for an indiscretion. She refused to see him. Banishment from the Darbar was the ultimate manifestation of her displeasure. Jairam could not take it beyond a week. He came to see me, distraught and anguished. Sir, if she does not see me, I don't know what I will do, he declared. I asked him to calm down, assuring him that I would speak to her. I did, telling her about Jairam's agitation. She eventually relented and Jairam lived happily ever after. The second incident that I know of which invited Sonia's wrath involved Arjun Singh, who was the mystery man of the Congress. Every negative adjective was used for him: willy, silent, schemer, etc. At the time, he was down in the mouth. At a function where several senior CWC members were present, in his speech, he hinted that Sonia was surrounded by people who denied access to lifelong congressmen. Sonia was told that Arjun Singh had spoken of her being surrounded by a coterie. She refused to see him. He was not only a member of the CWC but had been a governor, chief minister, vice president of the party, and a cabinet minister. All his attempts to meet her were spurned. After these snubs, he came to my house and narrated his tale of woe. I conveyed to her Arjun Singh's misery and also clarified that he had not used the word coterie. She let Arjun Singh swing in the air for a few days and finally gave him an audience. He drove straight to my house from Tanjanbat and thanked me profusely, adding, Nator Singh ji, at this level in politics, no one makes the intervention you made on my behalf. It was a compliment I deeply appreciated. On 15th August 1997, during the occasion of 50 years of India's independence, the Indira Gandhi Memorial Trust organized an international conference to which former Zambian President Kenneth Kaunda was invited. In previous years, all participants had been put up in Lalit Suri's hotel on Barakhamba Road. For the 1997 conference, Sonia decided that all invitees would stay in the Oberoi Hotel. Kenneth Kaunda arrived a day late and, like in previous years, he drove from the airport to Suri's hotel. I informed Sonia of his arrival and that he was staying at Lalit Suri's hotel. She was incensed and asked me to meet Kaunda and request him to shift to Oberoi. It was a manifestly unreasonable demand. I had known Kaunda for many years, but my errand was a painful one. When I told him about this, he said he had settled down and, after a long flight, needed rest. I conveyed Kaunda's message to her. That should have ended the matter. It did not. Arrogance took over. She asked me to go back to Kaunda and ask him to shift to the Oberoi. I attempted to dissuade her, but she did not relent. I told her she was being irrational. Kaunda was one of Africa's most admired and respectable leaders. He was 22 years older than Sonia. Indira Gandhi and Rajiv would never have behaved in such an insensitive manner. On hearing her second message, Kaunda said that this would put him in an embarrassing position. What do I tell Suri? He asked. Kaunda could observe my discomfiture. I told him there had been a falling out. Kaunda agreed to shift after apologizing to Suri. Sonia was deliberately capricious. It was unbecoming of her. The Konda incident left a bad taste in the mouth. In the 1998, she decided that the time had come for her to be in the Lok Sabha. She was elected with a huge majority from Amethi, the family borough. She naturally became president of the Congress Parliamentary Party. However, in the Lok Sabha, she did not speak even once in her first term. Between 2000 and 2003, Sonia traveled to the US where she met dignitaries such as Vice President Dick Cheney and Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. She also visited Oxford and Hong Kong. I accompanied her on these trips. She was a different person abroad, relaxed, amusing, less demanding, and more considerate. In New York, there occurred an incident worth recounting. Sonia and her delegation, Manmohan Singh, Murali Devra, Jairam Ramesh, and I stayed in the Carlyle Hotel where we arrived late in the evening. To my horror, I discovered that the New York authorities had not provided any security for her. Anyone could walk into her suite. Sonia made light of it, but I immediately telephoned Prime Minister Vajpayee. It was nearly midnight in Delhi. I told the Prime Minister that it was too risky to leave her without any security. The large hearted Vajpayee said he would get back to me. Half an hour later, Lalit Mansingh, our ambassador in Washington, was on the line. He said that the Prime Minister had just called him and asked him to ensure immediately that Sonia Gandhi was given a security detail. He was as good as his word. In 2004, the NDA led by Atal Bihari Vajpayee lost the Lok Sabha elections. They could not manage to sell the India Shining mantra to the voting public. Sonia and the leaders of several non-NDA parties put together the United Progressive Alliance with Sonia as chairperson. The expectation was that Sonia would occupy 7 Racecourse Road as Prime Minister. The Gandhi family, however, was a house divided. Rahul was vehemently opposed to his mother becoming Prime Minister, fearing that she would lose her life, much like his grandmother and his father. Matters reached a climax after Rahul said that he was prepared to take any possible step to prevent his mother from taking up the Prime Ministership. Rahul is a strong willed person. This was no ordinary threat. He gave Sonia 24 hours to decide. Manmohan Singh, Suman Dubey, Priyanka, and I were present at that moment. Sonia was visibly agonized and in tears. As a mother, it was impossible for her to ignore Rahul. He had his way. That was the reason for her not becoming Prime Minister. Only Manmohan Singh and I were aware of Sonia's decision. Later, she called a meeting in which she announced that she was offering the post of Prime Minister to Manmohan Singh. I once pulled Sonia's leg on this, telling her that only 2 people in history had refused the crown, both Italians by birth. Who is the other? She asked. Julius Caesar, I replied. Thank you for listening. She walked demurely in the light of fortune. Demurg, demure means reserved. Demure means modest and shy. Implacable fate. Implacable. Implacable means impossible to be appeased, impossible to change. I go blank even with a written test. You want me to say something extempore? Forget it. TEMPORE, extempore, means done or said without preparation. She used to enjoy my discomfiture. DISCOMFITURE. Discomfiture means a feeling of unease or embarrassment. Even in the working committee meetings, she was taught and spoke very little. TAUT, taught means tight, not slack. He came to see me distraught. DISTRUGHT, distraught means very worried and upset. At the time, he was down in the mouth. Down in the mouth means dejected. All his attempts were spurned. SPURNED, spurned means rejected. She was deliberately capricious. CAPRACIOS, capricious means changing of mood or behavior suddenly and unexpectedly. She was elected with a huge majority from Amethi, the family borough. BOROUGH, borough means a small village or town. Rahul was vehemently opposed to his mother becoming Prime Minister. Vehemently means expressing strong feelings. Once I pulled her leg on this, telling her that only two people in history had refused the crown. Pull one's leg means tease someone playfully. Thank you very much.